Mount Coronet is a giant, well, mountain, hence the name, in the heart of Sinnoh, that takes up a large portion of that region. Since it's so vital to the story, I've decided to beat Pokémon Platinum, becoming the Sinnoh champion, using only Pokémon you can find there. Here are the rules, and let's get spelunking. I, Indiana, am a natural explorer, or more accurately, exploration is thrust upon me whether I want it or not, much like that little fat kid from Up. In this case, my grouchy old man stops our journey before it can begin and gives me a Pokémon. Like in most of my videos, as cool as the starters may be, I simply can't use them. Not that Carl gives me a choice in the matter. I guess the monkey is the best pick? I don't know. He does knock out my rival's bird easily enough. Okay, time for an adventure, take 2. Now we're interrupted by this young guy who thinks he's an old dude. Who else spends more time complaining about the state of the world than old people? Hope I never see him again. On my way to our first usable Pokemon, I encounter Bidoof. This guy is exceptionally good at traversing Mount Coronet with his myriad HMs, but he's not native to the cave. In other words, he's a foreigner, and I don't want their kind in this video. If you're not from the cave, you're gravely mistaken. I do want that return TM though. Without it, the start of this video would really suck, because the first encounter, well, it's not great. I run right through this city in the dead of night, don't do that kids, it's not safe, and find a Zubat, who I technically could catch, but let's kill it instead. After all, there's a perfectly good cave just north of here where I get a much stronger cave bat, by one whole level. It may not be Mount Coronet, but at least it's a cave. And that bat is our official starter Pokemon. Doing all of these cave videos, check out the other regions if you haven't already, has taught me a very important lesson. Low-level Zubats totally suck. Until level 13, their only attacking moves are Leech Life and Astonish, which don't even benefit from Stab. So, in order to give this bat a fighting chance at life, and to beat Barry, I teach it Return. You know, the item we got like a minute ago? He likes me well enough at this point, but with Barry's Starly's constant growling throwing off my groove, it ends up being a 3-hit KO. To add insult to injury, Piplup also growls until Zubat is at -6 attack. Well, at this point only a crit can save me. Hey, right in the nick of time too. Man, I hope things get easier from here. I bet they will, since in the Oreburgh Gate, we have our second viable encounter. Geodude, another staple in these cave runs, who starts off way better than the bat. But we're not done yet. On Route 207, I need to catch a Machop. I wish I could wait to get a cave Machop, but without him, this first gym would be a nightmare. But with him, well, let's just say I scare Rourke right out of his mind. Yeah, that's right, you'd better run. Oh, wait, I need to battle him. Come back, Rourke! I start with Machop, aka Chopmon, to chop like this run depends on it, because it quite literally does. Geodude takes 2 hits, but doesn't do too much. A crit headbutt by Cranidos would be a major issue, but he leers instead, which is fine by me. 1 low kick on the Dino, followed by 2 kicks to the Rock Snake, and the first gym badge is ours. I'm really glad I wasn't stuck with only a Zubat for that fight. That would have sucked. As would missing any of my future videos, so subscribe to the channel and consider becoming a YouTube or Patreon member for early access to videos. Back in Jubilife, Dawn and I are jumped by some scoundrels. I told you not to run around the city at night. Thanks for helping, by the way, Carl. More of those scoundrels take over a windmill, and I'm tasked with helping them. I don't know why. There aren't any windmills in caves. And what do I care about some hostage situation? Geodude makes short work of this returnless bat, and with the newfound ability to smash rocks, or fat cats, as the case may be, he beats Perugly too, though he almost didn't make it. All of this just to save one stinky guy? Hardly seems worth it. Anyway, one non-cave forest later, against the very last Eterna Gym trainer, Zubat gets to level 22 and evolves. It would be awesome if he evolved a second time right away. After all, he has been holding a Soothe Bell ever since I got it 5 minutes ago, but I've run out of trainers to battle here. On to Gardenia it is. Either way, this will be super easy now that the bat is halfway decent. Turtwig is promptly plucked, though Cherim ruins it with a Leech Seed. I swap into Machop, who tries his very best to win, but thanks to a super potion, it doesn't work. At least Cherim doesn't Leech Seed my bat this time. The reason I have Pluck instead of Wing Attack is to add insult to injury for this Roserade. She has no chance to beat me. Eating that berry is just the citrus on the cake. The space scoundrels make an appearance again, though with how things went last time, I'm not really concerned. Perhaps, however, I should have spent a bit more time looking at their movesets instead of thinking of sick burns, as Zubat Giga Drains Geodude into near oblivion. I'm surprised he survived at all, to be honest. Not that it lasted long. Machop does a lot of damage to Skuntank, but doesn't survive either. No worries, Golbat, my starter, defeats the skunk and Jupiter too, who just so happened to have also kidnapped another grown man, who again needed a child to rescue them. Talk about your typical male damsel in distress. But it nets me a bike, so I can't complain. Or I can, but I still get something from it. Just 2 levels after his first evolution, Golbat likes me enough to do it again. Just in time to reach Mount Coronet. Or not, as I'm blocked by Dawn. Come on, lady. The whole video has been leading up to this point. Why you gotta be like that? With that speed bump gone, I, at long last, enter the Holy Mountain, only to promptly turn tail and run because I forgot to buy Pokeballs, and I'ma need plenty. Thank you, Market Lady. On to Mount Coronet, take 2. My first encounter here is Bronzor, the Steel Psychic Frisbee. Cyrus, the apparent leader of the Space Scoundrels, temporarily stops me from getting more Pokemon so he can blather on about unimportant nonsense. Whatever, dude. Meditite, here I come. And Chingling too, the not Steel Psychic, for some reason. Nosepass is next, followed shortly by Magikarp. But we're not done yet. There's one more Pokemon I need to find here. With a 10% encounter rate, I didn't expect it to be this difficult to find. The Clefairy, I mean, who is the last, for now, mountain Pokemon. Now comes the hard part, deciding which cave dwellers are worthy to be on my team. I keep my starter Crobat because, obviously, then bring along the Sinnoh Pokemon, with the exception of Chingling, who I just don't like. Sorry. Gyarados is too good and overused, so that's a no from me, dog. Meditite then comes along, as does Machop and Clefairy. This is only my round 1 team though. I will make a change or two as we move forward. The first change, actually, takes place back in the mountain, where Nosy, the Nosepass, levels up while being subjected to a compass-disrupting magnetic field, forcing an evolution into an even bigger nose. And a mustache. That's all for now though. Let's continue our gym challenge with Fantina. I don't have many great ghost counters here, but it turns out I only need the one. Crobat shows why he deserves the number 1 spot on my team, biting his way through the 3 ghosts without even getting hit. That was perfect. He's really been redeeming himself after that rough start. He's been doing a bit too much lately, however, so now it's time for others to share in the glory. The newly evolved Probopass is intimidated by Berry Staravia, still rock sliding for the knockout. Machop is basically just a sacrifice to bring Crobat out without getting hit. A few plucks defeats the Water Bird, the Fire Horse, and the Poison Flower. What? Crobat didn't hog all the glory that time. Big Nose got a KO too. That's called sharing. Don't worry though, once I can leave Hearthome City without getting jumped, I get the not great, but still good, Rod. This unlocks one new Pokemon in the mountain, none other than Barboach, who, in a semi-recent video, I completely messed up because I forgot he existed. So, welcome to the team, Forgotten. He takes the place of Machop because I don't need 2 fighters on my team. Cue Water Dude and his theme song, and in case you've forgotten his name, well, he makes sure you don't. Now, you might think Crobat would again dominate Maylene and her fighters, and sure, she starts off that way, but I'll need to rely on others here as well. Not getting flinched from Fake Out is pretty cool though. Anticipating a Rock Slide, I pivot to Meditite and begin to Confusion. It's not super powerful. Meditite is more a physical attacker after all, but it gets him down low enough for Crobat to pluck. Lucario is likely to be his match, however. I confuse it, hoping for chip damage, and succeed once, so I guess it was worth it. I didn't expect 2 Metal Claws to leave Crobat alive, but they do, and the bat, once again, proves why he is my one true starter. Eat that, fighting lady. Looks like those scoundrels are up to no good again. But this time, they're messing with a girl, which is like worse than kidnapping a guy, right? I help Dawn out, I've got nothing else to do, then Looker tries to investigate where they ran off to, giving up at the first sign of not immediately seeing them. You sure you're a real investigator, man? I use my investigation skills to buy some strong elemental TMs. Though I prefer the ones in the game corner, they're much more expensive, so they'll have to wait a bit. On the way to Pastoria, Barboach evolves into the form I actually did remember. Now we're talking. Barry blocks me again, this time right in front of a gym. Okay, fine. This starts, actually, quite a bit worse than last time, if we're being honest. Not only does Probopass miss some rock slides, the ones that do hit aren't all that strong, and to make matters worse, he is almost knocked out thanks to Endeavor. Sure, Wing Attack does 3 whole damage, but that was really close. I'm not super happy with that performance, so take a Bubble Beam, Big Nose. Now Meditite is still a few levels shy of evolving, but he has learned the elemental punches. He shows them off quite well. After a flinch by Ponyta, it's time for Whiscash's major battle debut, where he water pulses the Fire Horse, and immediately runs away from a flower. Since this is Barry's final Pokemon, now I can bring out Crobat to end the battle once again. This brings us to Crasher Wake. Clefairy knows Thunder, so all she has to do is survive Waterfall, which she does, and we're home free. Or she could miss. That's why the Bolt is so much better. That was not great, not Fairy. Meditite can succeed where she failed though. He also survives Waterfall, actually hits this time, but Thunder Punch is not strong enough? The second hit doesn't do any better either. Well, there goes my plan A and B. Guess it's time for plan C, Crobat. He hasn't failed me yet. Of course, that doesn't mean I want him to get Ice Fanged. Probopass can handle that. I'm really hoping that between Paralysis and Rock Slide flinches, he can beat Floatzel, but it wasn't meant to be. Let's use Bronzor instead to add some confusion into the mix. Still doesn't work out so well. Okay, Crobat, let's do this. Not a freeze, that's the opposite of helpful. He thaws quickly enough, and is doing quite well. Right when it looked like victory was within my grasp, an Aqua Jet seals Crobat's fate. I think this was his very first time being knocked out. That's pretty impressive. Well, it's all up to Whiscash now. All I need is a decent magnitude. Nope, not that. That's quite literally the weakest. At least he gets another chance thanks to Paralysis. It works out this time too. Now, it's time for our 2 water ground Pokemon to face off. With Quagsire's Yawn, it doesn't look so good for me. My fish ends up asleep for far too many turns, but at the very end, he wakes up, confuses Quagsire, which I've been trying to do the entire time, and defeats it, as we escape the very real possibility of our first loss. Man, that was rough, but our days of struggle and turmoil are officially over, now that Meditite evolves. I'm not even joking. Pure Power doubles his attack, and now that the elemental punches are physical in Gen 4, he is a freaking beast. Let me prove it to you by trouncing Cyrus, who comes into this cave, a sacred place, as are all caves, uninvited. I'm about to teach him a lesson that doesn't in any way change the trajectory of the story. So does it really matter? Yes, because I need to show off Medicham. Sneasel is fire punched in a single hit, though Golbat proves a bit tougher. Medicham still defeats the bat because he's just that good. But Murkrow proves too powerful. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Probopass then tries and fails to KO. That Nightshade is just too good. Clefairy similarly tries and likewise fails. Looks like this is a job for Old Reliable. Crobat wins in a single hit as expected. You can't keep that bat down. No, not everything was alright in there. Thanks for coming to the rescue, Cynthia, so-called champion. I'm just an explorer here, not the world police. At this point, Bronzor evolves, making its nickname just stupid. But I'm too stubborn to change it. Frisbee it shall remain until the end of its days. Hopefully, that's a long time coming. Let's put it to the test against my rival and his Staraptor. Normally, this is the job for Big Nose, but Staraptor has close combat now, and hitting noses with fighting moves is quite damaging. It should be fine. Confuse Ray, followed up with a few extra sensories, and the bird is a goner. Whiscash once again serves Rapidash easily enough, while Crobat shrugs off a Giga Drain to simply fly Roserade. I sacrifice Whiscash, allowing Clefairy to hit a very pathetic Thunderbolt. I need to evolve her already, but I'm waiting for Moonlight first. Medicham drop kicks the now Steel Bird. Heracross is then double Fire Punched, even shrugging off an Aerial Ace. That was pretty good. Okay Byron, I beat your son with a single Pokemon, let's attempt the same for you. The Pokemon this time, of course, is Whiscash, who is equally as capable with ground moves for Magneton and water moves for Steelix. This is going quite well, thanks in large part to the Expert Belt. Now Bastiodon boosts his defenses quite a bit, but since I didn't heal prior to this battle, I only have 2 Surf PP left, and I need to not waste it. He heals, of course, and when I'm confident it'll work, Whiscash surfs for the win. You know what they say, like son, like father. I celebrate my victory in the most exciting place known to man or Pokemon, the library. But a large-scale explosion ruins my party plans. I wonder who could be behind this. Before worrying about all of that, I try to sneak into a previously unexplored mountain area, now that I have strength, but the scoundrels are blocking my path. Come on guys, I still have an encounter to find. Whatever, I'll just sneak past all of these other ones guarding a no longer lake. Such an important job they have too. I beat Saturn and Mars fairly easily, scaring off the other galactic members blocking my path. Now, finally, I can almost fully traverse the mountain. There are still places I can't get to, but I have access to this underground lake where in only 4 random tiles the last Pokemon appears. Fortunately, there are calculators to find out where to fish, so in a matter of minutes, I find Phoebus, the final Mount Coronet Pokemon. As cool as Milotic is, I like my current team, so I'ma stick with Whiscash. On the other side of the mountain, Barry taunts my inability to climb, which seems somewhat ableist if we're being honest. Not surprising coming from him, but I can learn how to climb simply by defeating Candace. Bronzong starts off with a single Gyro Ball, knocking out the much faster Sneasel in one hit. I swap to Crobat to avoid an Earthquake, then pivot right into Medicham, who avoids a Rock move and high jump kicks. Clefable comes out to not get hit by Shadow Ball, and with 2 Choice Specs Flamethrowers, the Icy Ghost is easily melted. Last and certainly least, Abomasnow is simply flamethrowered, getting our second to last gym badge. But more importantly, the ability to climb. Before showing that off, let's do some more sneaking around the Space Scoundrels. They have a very important assembly that I, standing 5 feet away, am able to watch unnoticed. These guys are pretty blind, aren't they? I get through their secret base, starting a battle with Cyrus, the young old guy. For his Sneasel, Probopass easily wins with just 2 hits, shrugging off some ice punches. Crobat gets a flinch, but is similarly squashed. Once again, however, Honchcrow's Nightshade proves too powerful. Clefable's Thunderbolt is just barely too weak, and she can't surpass Honchcrow. That's fine. Crobat can obviously outspeed to defeat Cyrus not quite once and for all. Again, it does nothing to hinder his plans, which just doesn't make any sense. Now, the only problem with Rock Climb is that none of my chosen Pokemon can actually learn it. So, I, very temporarily, mind you, replace Probopass with the Geodude I boxed forever ago, because he is the only one that can learn to climb. Well, wasn't that just totally worth it? Regardless, this mountain is now fully explorable, allowing me to reach Spear Pillar at the very top. I'm not sure what Barry's doing here, but okay. Between Medicham's elemental punches and Golem trying to worm himself back into my good graces, Jupiter and Mars are again defeated. Still doesn't stop Cyrus from summoning the Pokemon Devil, sucking us into oblivion, where we have another fight just because we can. I lead with Golem, who easily rock slides Cyrus's Houndoom. He is then sacrificed to Gyarados, allowing Medicham to Thunder Punch it after a waterfall. Honchcrow is just bulky enough to survive the hit, even with an Expert Belt. Dang it, it looks like it's up to Clefable with her Thunderbolts. I can't swap to Flamethrower, however, thanks to a Choice Specs, but in my defense, I didn't expect to survive Weasel's Ice Punch. Whiscash similarly hangs on, and then Earthquakes. He falls to Crobat, but I'm sure that Bronzong can handle the Poison Bat. Extrasensory does a ton, but it's hitting itself in confusion, and I'm not about that life. I swap to my own Crobat to cure confusion, and he really does try to win, but the level difference is just too much, and my Crobat fails. His sacrifice brings out my final Pokemon, Bronzong, who wins in just one more Extrasensory. That was a really close one. I almost lost. And for some unexplained reason, this time beating Cyrus does ruin his plans. So, like a spoiled child, he yells at me before running away, which, coincidentally, is exactly what I do to Giratina, which is how I very bravely saved the Pokemon world. Man, After all that excitement, getting the final gym badge doesn't seem nearly as important. But I ain't no quitter. Unless it's really hard, that is. And Volkner will be anything but. I know keeping Golem on my team would make it even easier, but I'm confident in Whiscash's ability to defeat some electric Pokemon, starting with his Jolteon and a quite pathetic Iron-Tail. Electivire, on the other hand, hits a very strong crit quick attack, still succumbing to Earthquake. Not even Luxray can survive the quake. But with only 20 HP left, Raichu barely has to do anything to finish off the fish. No worries, I still have basically my entire team. Medicham, let's finish this off. With the final badge in my possession, Elite Four, here I come. After trouncing Barry for the final time. This kid never learns. But I have. Like the good old days, I start with Probopass against his bird. This baits out a close combat that Crobat tanks like a freaking beast. That little maneuver not only lowered Staraptor's defense, it wasted his Intimidate too. So yeah, that was a great start. For Giant Snorlax, I obviously need to resort to my fighter to kick him right in his stupid, fat necklace face. Sorry, maybe I'm just bitter about how long his HP bar takes. This leaves Medicham in the simple position to Fire Punch Roserade. Through some difficulty, including a paralysis, Whiscash surfs Rapidash. He's then knocked out against Heracross. I probably could have swapped into Crobat, but I wanted to make sure he was safe so he could fly into the Fighting Bug. He also screeches and flies Empoleon, but that was really just for some chip damage, letting Medicham end the battle and our rival's career with a single Thunder Punch. It's too late for that, Barry. I've already surpassed you. Aaron's bug types should be not so tough, especially since Probopass is a defensive monster. His attack, well, it leaves something to be desired. Not even a 4 times effective Stab Rock Slide will one-shot Yanmega. Aaron double teams a bunch, heals, and it's eventually knocked out. Once again, Big Nose baits out a close combat for Crobat, who flies the second Fighting Bug in as many minutes. Whiscash is charged with Earthquaking Drapion, and he might have beaten it too, if not for that darn crit. Several relatively weak Gyro Balls from Bronzong defeats the non-bug. It confuses Scizor, before swapping to Clefable to prey on that Steel Bug's one weakness. But it's a pretty big one. With those choice specs, he burns and flames the Queen Bee to death as well. See? Told you that was an easy one. Bertha, with her ground types, should be even better. For this, Clefable has the Expert Belt. That way, after Grass Knotting Whiscash, she can then Ice Beam Gliscor no problem. Now Hippowdon isn't quite heavy enough, and it whips up a Sandstorm. That would have been Clefable's undoing, if not for Magic Guard, preventing her from taking non-direct damage, like Sandstorm. Sweet. A heal by Bertha, and 2 hits later, the Sand Hippo is a goner. Being very heavy, and 4 times weak to grass, both Golem and Rhyperior fall to a single hit each. That was a great showing, Clefable. I'm proud of you. For Flint, who actually has fire types in Platinum, I lead with Medicham to high jump kick Houndoom. And he outspeeds too, which was surprising. Rapidash is too fast, however, causing Medicham to miss and take a ton of damage. Well, that's too bad. Probopass makes an appearance to Sandstorm right as Rapidash Sunny Days. If that's how you want to play it, then so be it. Expecting another sunny day, I use Thunder Wave, and next turn, now that I outspeed, Sandstorm again right as the horse tries to Solar Beam. Ha! I totally saw that coming. The Sandstorm not only increases Probopass's special defense, it also cuts Solar Beam damage in half, resulting in, undoubtedly, the most pathetic Solar Beam I have ever seen. That's just embarrassing, Rapidash. The good news is, at level 49, Probopass learns Power Gem. He's much more of a special attacker than physical anyway. I pivot to Crobat on Infernape's Earthquake, and just hope that Fly is a one-hit KO. I didn't hope quite enough, it seems. But Infernape takes matters into his own creepily human-like hands, taking us both out with Flare Blitz. Alright, Big Nose reappears to Sandstorm for the special defense boost, and I have no idea why Magmortar used Solar Beam here. We've already seen how crappy it is. If he had stuck with Flamethrower, he easily could have won. But with the newly learned Power Gem, he too is knocked out. Of course, Sandstorm or no, an overheating Flareon is a bit too much. So finally, at the last Pokemon, my Water type can come out, now that Flint is done throwing around Solar Beams. 2 surfs by my fish, and that's the end of that. That burn didn't really do anything to me. Aside from obviously Cynthia, Lucian is the battle here I've been most concerned with. But I have a plan. Crobat has an expert belt and starts the battle U-turning away from Mr. Mime. I totally expected him to survive that, but since he didn't, let's go to another plan. Clefable baits out a drain-punching Gallade, but we all know by now how good Crobat is at resisting fighting. A single fly knocks out that fighter. For Espeon, X-Scissor would likely not be strong enough, and I need to keep the bat alive. So he U-turns again, this time into Probopass. He Sandstorms, getting another special defense boost, and begins to whittle away at Espeon with Flash Cannon. The first hit was a crit, which was nice, but Lucian does some healing. Still, with a Citrus Berry, Big Nose easily makes it out alive. He then sacrifices himself to paralyze Lucian's Bronzong. That kind of comes back to haunt me though, as with much lower speed, Gyro Ball is now superpowered. Still not enough to defeat the Flamethrower in Clefable, however. She falls to Alakazam, bringing Crobat out one more time to X-Scissor for the knockout. Man, even though he's a pretty low level at this point, my starter Crobat is still doing really well. That is, until we come to Cynthia, one of the most terrifying of all Pokemon battles. This lady is indeed a champion, even though she did basically nothing to help me save Sinnoh. My Probopass faces off against her Spiritomb, and quite frankly, it's a very boring battle. I paralyze the Ghost, and then use Sandstorm to deal chip and get the defense boost. After that, I just spam Flash Cannon, hoping for a special defense drop. Probopass also has the Metronome item, making each hit slightly stronger than the last. After a number of hits, and one turn before he would fall, Probopass knocks it out. He falls to Lucario, but Bronzong can take him. Or perhaps not? I thought 2 Choice Spec Psychics would have been good enough. Well, it still did a ton of damage first. Enough for Crobat to simply fly. He U-turns away from Togekiss to not get shockwaved, but even with Protect and Leftovers healing, my Whiscash isn't doing a very great job. I could have done without that flinch too. In the end, he doesn't quite make it, but Medicham surprises even me, outspeeding with an Ice Punch. This brings out Cynthia's Garchomp. Now, if Medicham survives a single hit, I could easily win this. And he does, with 4 HP, responding with a single Never Melt Ice Ice Punch for the knockout. Now we're talking. His Thunder Punch, however, isn't quite enough for Milotic. Good thing I still have Clefable, and she is holding the Expert Belt, Grass-knotting Milotic after a Surf. Roserade Toxic Clefable, which is pointless because of the aforementioned Magic Guard. That wasted turn allows Clefable to double Ice Beam the Poison Flower, usurping the championship title. As much as I'd love to pretend I did all of this without a single loss, I actually did lose to Cynthia the first attempt. Her Garchomp was just a tad too strong, and it destroyed most of my team. Still, a single loss throughout the entire game, at the very end too, isn't so bad. With that, I have officially beaten Pokémon Platinum using only Pokémon from Mount Coronet. And I didn't even use all of them. There are plenty of other teams you could have formed with the mountain Pokémon, but I'm happy with the way my team turned out. As always, thank you for watching, and a special thanks to my YouTube and Patreon members for their support. I'll probably take a little bit of a break from these cave videos to work on other ideas I have, but don't worry, I'll be back. Either way, I'll see you in the next region.